and it helps if I click unmute the right thing instead of muting myself. So, welcome to the second inaugural, or whatever you want to call it, episode of Wargaming Whenever. The Wargaming show where we talk crap for an hour about random things Wargaming related. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, except I kind of do because I have a fun story that we're going to kick off with that everyone will get a kick out of, probably, or maybe not, who knows. So welcome everyone, and as always, if you want to improve your wargaming, make your tabletop battles more epic, and of course save some money at the same time, subscribe, smash the like button, then hit the real subscribe button for great, super happy, fun time all the time. So, I'm joined here with Mitchell and Callum this evening. And we're just gonna kind of talk and about everything we can possibly think of and see where the conversation goes and who we can look. If you take this game too seriously, or any tabletop game, don't take games too seriously because you will get upset. Unless you like getting upset. Unless you like getting upset, then of course feel free to. So it's been a while since I've done very much on this channel. I do apologize for that. I'm going to try and get into stuff more regularly, but I've said that before, and then it's 2 years later and nothing's happened. So I make zero promises. Sue me.
Not you, Disney.
Look, I will try to avoid using anything that is copyrighted by Disney because I honestly don't feel like being sued by someone that has more money than me, as I'm sure everyone can appreciate.
That would be
look,
not fun.
No, it wouldn't be.
They put their own guy on ice. Imagine what they do with the rest of us.
Wait, what they do with their own guy?
Isn't Walt Disney like
Disney?
frozen somewhere?
Yeah, cryogenically.
Wait, hold on. Is that the reason why they made the movie Frozen? So that when people looked up Walt Disney Frozen, it would turn up with the movie and not the...
that is one of the tinfoils. Yeah.
Fun. Look, let's avoid saying Disney any more times, or it's like Candyman. You say it 3 times and he's going to appear. But anyway, so story time. I had a 3-person game using the open war cards yesterday. So I brought my Grey Knights along because that's what I'm playing at the moment. There was also Thousand Suns, which is what Chris plays. He's not with us tonight, but maybe in the future he will have time to jump on. And of course, we also had Reese, who brought his NIDS along. We kind of deployed in a way so that we split the table into like 6 sections, and had one person in a middle section, 12 inches from the edge, then the other 2 people across. So like if you had a rectangle, I was down here in the middle, had Reese up here, and then Chris over here with the Thousand Suns. So we were all at least 24 inches apart to start with. The objective was very simple. There was a crate of jeans in the middle of the table, and whoever held the crate of jeans at the end of the game won. Of course, being there were NIDS on the table, gene stealers, which immediately used their ability to set up outside of their deployment zone to deploy on top of the crate of jeans and steal it before the game started.
Pro tip, never be the first person to go for the crate.
Well, look, that is the lesson that was very quickly hammered home as the gene stealers steal the crate. Reese, who was playing NIDS, rolled first turn, so we went first. We were playing alternate activation as opposed to alternate turns, so basically the way that works is it's kind of a house rule that we've come up with where instead of having one person does everything, next person does everything, last person does everything, we have kind of common phases. So in the command phase, whoever goes first will do all their command phase stuff. Then person 2 does all their command phase stuff. Person 3 does all their command phase stuff.
Well, that's not so strange because I believe they have a similar system to that, or at least they did in the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game.
Yes,
Yeah.
they did.
Same with Apocalypse.
Fallout Wasteland Warfare, which is another game that I like, has a very similar system, but instead of being broken up into phases, it's activations of individual models. But yeah, so did it like that. Then movement phase, each person gets to move. Then each person gets a psychic. Each person gets to shoot. Each person gets to charge. Each person gets to fight. Like that.
Just so that the last person doesn't end up with 2 models before they get to go.
Yeah, just so that the last person doesn't have their entire army wiped off the table before they get to roll anything that's not an armor save. Because that wouldn't be fun for anyone involved. So given
especially when you're talking Grey Knights and Thousand Suns, like
Yeah.
the 2 most heavily psyched armies, everything's just throwing mind bullets at
there was
one person.
so many mind bullets. I think it was turn 2. My librarian, who I had kitted out to be the colloquially known mortal wound bomb librarian. Basically, that's, for those that don't know, it's a Grey Knight librarian. You kit him out with Vortex of Doom and Purifying Flame. You spend the CP so that he casts on 3d6 and discards the lowest. You then also spend a CP to cast a third power, because he normally can only cast 2. You spend 1 spent, and if he's just deep struck in and is outside of 9 inches, you then would have to spend a third one to extend the range of Purifying Flame if you want all 3 to go off. Normally, you're looking at an average of 13 or 14 mortal wounds, which, that's a lot for a 100-point model.
It's a stupid amount.
Mine did slightly better than it should have done, given that there were NIDs nearby. So, Shadow of the Warp, meaning my psychic casts are -1 to cast it. Well, -1 to the dice roll. So I need to roll 1 higher than the warp charge on the power. I got Vortex of Doom to go off straight away for a flat 7 mortal wounds, straight up. So I rolled 2 3s on my 2d3, and because I gave my librarian the Warlord trait to have 1 extra mortal wound whenever he casts a psychic power that deals mortal wounds, so that's 7 straight up. Then Purifying Flame went off for a flat 3, +1 because of his Warlord trait, so that's another 4. And then I threw a Smite down just for good luck. So that was devastating. That librarian then got murdered.
Understandably so.
I think he kind of deserved it after that.
Look, entirely, but at that point I'd gotten my 100 points worth out of him.
He basically became the pre-nerf Malceptor.
Yes, but cheaper and easier to kill.
And uglier somehow.
I don't know. My librarian conversion's pretty hectic. I've realized I'm really bad at green stuff, so I sculpted in Blender and 3D printed the psychic power being blasted out of his hand instead.
Ooh, I like that.
Also kit bashed his Storm Bolter, so cut one of the barrels off of it and put a melter barrel on it because it's a combi melter, and then took some of the melter bits off of the melter gun I'd already hacked up and attached to the side to make it look more proper. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Once I finish painting him, I'll do a slow-mo of him and upload as a short at some point. But
I feel like we need show and tell at some point. Yeah,
that will happen eventually. Not this time, because I think probably using proper pictures and then just putting them into the stream would be better for that. But anyway, back to the story of the Gene Stealers and the genes that they stole that were in a radioactive crate of genes. Just to be perfectly clear, this was armies in the 41st millennium fighting over a crate of pants.
Okay, so here was me thinking it might have been I don't know, some Space Marine gene seed or something. No, these are actually pants.
Actually,
understood.
Pants. Hence why it's hilarious. So the Gene Stealers run back and try and get away. The Grey Knights, the Thousand Suns move forward, but because one of the open war cards we drew meant that psychic powers and shooting attacks are limited to a maximum of 18 inches of range, first turn no one could do very much. But when the Grey Knights got around to moving, they moved forward and then opened fire with so many Storm Bolters. Just so many Storm Bolters at the Gene Stealers that had stolen a box of Genes.
How many Storm Bolters?
Well, let's see. There was a strike squad, a 5-man strike squad, so that's 4 Storm Bolters and a Silencer. There was another strike squad, kit out the same. An Interceptor squad. There was also a Land Raider Redeemer. So you're talking Twin Assault Cannon, Multi-Melter, another Storm Bolter, and of course 2 Flame Storm Cannons to, mince the Gene Stealers. Anyone want to take a guess how many Gene Stealers all of that actually managed to kill?
I'm gonna by rights they should have been reduced to a fine red paste, but I'm gathering you're going to tell us that some actually survived.
Out of the 5 that were in the squad, 1 survived. All of that, and I killed 4 Gene Stealers.
I don't like that.
I still have that picture too.
The worst part was the only thing that actually got rerolls from my Grandmaster being nearby didn't actually get them because it's the Land Raider and wasn't core. Everything was too far to get rerolls of all the ones to hit I rolled.
This is because you're a Necron player. You're used to everything having core, and doesn't matter where anything goes.
Look, I am used to everything having core, and everything having AP. Storm Bolters have no AP, which is fine because there's a lot of them.
Well, see, you say that now, but my Shuriken list took a massive dive when Armor of Contempt came out.
Yeah, look, it absolutely deserved it. You want to tell everyone about the Shuriken list? Because it's fantastic.
Okay, so the Shuriken list is very, very simple. It runs off Hail of Doom, pre-Data Slate. So I was also Swift something. So I was moving everywhere. And so you're basically looking at 2 full units of Wind Riders, obviously with Shuriken cannons, catapult, sorry. And it just pumped out an insane amount. So in a single round, I could get 406 Shuriken shots off. 6s becoming auto wounds at -3. And then, of course, you start to look at Guide, which is now just flat rerolls. And then if you can throw Doom on a unit as well, same thing. When the first game I played with it, it tabled Custodes T2. I think Zach ended up flipping the table. It was just absolutely horrible. There's something stupid. There's 143 models in the list. It's just a stupid amount for shooting spam. It's just horrible. And then, of course, we can then move after shooting and advancing. Everything counts as remaining stationary. So we're getting battle focus after it. Things were just getting wild. I was halfway across the table with 406 shots on my first turn.
As a guard player, I'm incredibly envious.
Look, I would be too. That was actually the inspiration behind the list was the old catechins, just being just masses of bodies.
That's what the guard does best. Who knew the Eldar would do it too?
I think we kind of have to adopt something at this point. There's not long left for us. There's so few left that we had to resurrect a god of death to try and bring back a few buddies.
Well, like almost resurrect a god of death, because the last Crone Sword is in the bottom layer of hell.
With Fulgrim, yes.
Where look, Fulgrim definitely belongs in the bottom layer of hell.
It's good because I think he's agreed.
They did the Eldar so dirty with that though. Like, hey, building up to like some massive reveal. Oh wait, can't do that because you literally have to go into Slaanesha's palace in order to get what you need. That just feels like a little bit of a
Look, they just need to grow the balls and do it. Look, send the Dark Eldar into Slanesh's palace. They'll fit right in.
See, but here's the thing: we probably would have been looking at that kind of scenario if they hadn't have cancelled the series.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, there was literally nothing else they could do. Like, the only other thing was, like, the last 7 endings of Lord of the Rings. What do they turn around and walk home? It's like there was nothing. There was no other way that story could go, and I don't think GW really wanted to push that into being a thing.
I
Because
mean,
either all elves die like completely and then, or Slanesh fails and we get the sword back.
or somewhere in between where they retrieve the sword, but then get home and find out it was a fake. Imagine how dirty people would feel if they did that.
Except for the Harlequin players.
Look, I think we can all agree that the single best part of Warhammer lore, by far, is Harlequins absolutely making a joke out of the custodes in the Imperial Palace.
Which our friend Zach will not have.
He
keeps
will
talking.
not.
He keeps talking about making everything fluffy. Lists should be fluffy. Rules should be fluffy. And yes, we do agree to a point, but we bring that up. It's like, okay, cool. You want to make it fluffy? You can take 10,000 points of custodians, and I should still be able to beat you with less than a handful of clowns.
Yes.
So at this point, that's your move.
I approve this message. I mean, if we're talking about making the rules fluffy, then Necrons should be able to just go, see that planet there? No, not anymore. Gone. Bye bye. Just doesn't exist.
Or you should be able to do to Space Marines what I saw in an article of White Dwarf from back in 2004 or something like that, where they had literally like one tactical marine cost like 100 points.
Oh, the
like,
movie Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
remember
movie
that.
Marines, that was the one.
And the las cannon, you like fire it, and everything within its range along that line gets hit.
Yes,
Just
yes,
all
that's
of
the
it.
one. Just, I actually wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing that level of depiction somewhere in the lore, and it's one of the reasons why I love Dawn of War as a game. But I honestly feel like if you're going to do a proper Warhammer 40k game with escalation, it should not be a Space Marine faction. It should be an Imperium faction, and your Space Marines should be your elite call-ins.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Like, give you something to work for. Like, Space Marines should make you feel like a god.
This is true. All that plot armor does make them very hard to kill. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed that Games Workshop called the rule Armor of Contempt. Mitch, if you're not up with the rules at the moment, basically I think it was either the last Data Slate or the one before it, they threw in for all Astarte factions, so Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, even Sisters of Battle got it for some reason. I think it's supposed to be all power armored. The only power armored faction that didn't get it was Custodes, and Zach is so bitter about that. It's hilarious.
So salty.
So salty.
But the Custodians were depressed walking around even without their armor for like 10,000 years. That's according to law. Text to speech was canon.
Look, if text to speech is canon, then Kaldor Drago is incredible. An incredible joke. But basically, what it does is anything that shoots something with Armor of Contempt, Mitch, is the armor penetration value is reduced by 1. So if you had an armor penetration value of 2, it's now only 1. So instead of reducing their armor save by 2, it's now reducing it by 1, which ends up in some weird situations when you shoot. So you can stack stuff on Grey Knight Terminators. If you put them in cover or use Tide of Shadows so they count as being in light cover, that immediately brings them down to a 1+ save. If you're shooting them with something that is AP 1 or higher, functionally speaking, because that AP is reduced, which is as far as the dice are concerned, it's the same as adding 1 to your dice roll. It functionally then becomes a 0 plus save. If you want to be really hilarious, though, you then throw what's the name of the psychic power that the Grey Knights have? The one, I forget the name of it because I don't use it very often because it's complete overkill. It comes default on the Dreadnought, but you can choose to take it on Paladins, and it gives them +1 to their armor saving roll. Now bringing their armor save to -1 plus. You need AP 4, not 3, 4. You need AP 4 before you're able to get them having anything other than a 2+ save.
Theoretically, for that, like if a natural 1 wasn't always a fail, it should be if you roll your dice and 1 falls on the floor, then you've missed it.
Yes, because if you can't hit a massive table with a tiny dice, what chance do your soldiers have of hitting the enemy?
Oh, we're talking about Zach again.
Yes.
I feel like there's a story here.
Zach is notorious for rolling 1s. He is the quirk of our group.
He takes armies with the ability to hit and wound mostly all on 2s, and it'll still be 1s. Like I played a game against him trying the new Chaos. He won, except he flipped the table, so we'll call that a draw.
How many times did he flip the table? Because I'm betting it's more than once.
Just the once, but here's the reason. So 12 shots, hitting on 2s. I think it was about 4 go through. Re-rolls the 1s, takes up to 5. Wounds 0 times.
And those shots are like strength 5 AP -2 or something as well, aren't they?
It's something stupid. Yeah. And that was the table flip.
Look, to be fair, I totally understand flipping that table.
And I get how he had that bad luck as well. Like I've back when Warhammer Fantasy Battles was a thing. Rest in peace. I can't wait for the old world. Anyway, back when that was a thing, the only thing I would consistently have luck with was siege engines. I could get a little bit with shooting. Melee, I was hopeless. So I ran an Empire gunline army. And, well, I have no shame in saying that I played a game against one of my friends who played Lizardmen, and I annihilated a unit of Saurus in one turn with a Hellblaster volley gun.
That is completely fair and legal. Speaking of things that are completely fair and legal, I really wish that when they do the 10th edition Necron Codex, that they give them some 3rd edition style rules for Gauss weapons. Does anyone else, anyone at all, put it in the comments if you remember this, the time when the Necron's most basic gun could kill your most advanced tank in one shot, and this was fair and legal.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
And it wasn't even from behind.
Yeah,
it was front-facing armor.
Front-facing armor. It's just 6 always glances, and then if you roll the 6 on the glancing table, dead. Good times. Loved it so much. And
look, if we're going back.
Oh, look, to be fair, back then, Necron Monolith, only vehicle that ignored the Lance rules.
Well, having said that, they were kind of balanced out by the fact that you had to take Necron Warriors as core. Like, you only had one core.
Yeah, there was one troop choice.
How times have changed.
And on top of that, the Monolith was almost also a must-have. Mainly because it was really durable and it dealt out the pain pretty hard. Although, for some reason, of all the games back then that I played, my average amount of damage out of the Monolith was 0.
Oh, so it's like a bolt.
You want to know how that happened? About 90% of the time, I would deep strike it. And every time I deep strike it, it would scatter across onto some terrain and mishap. And I would always get the destroyed mishap.
I'm convinced that I'm convinced that some people, like as you said, your friend who gets ones, me who could only make anything work with siege weapons, you constantly using a monolith. I swear that some people have like a natural affinity for rolls. There is no such thing as randomness in 40k. You just every person who plays 40k has a superpower. You just have to find out what works with it.
Yes, for example, Cal has the complete inability to destroy Triarch Stalkers. Cannot do it.
Never ever happened, no matter what I've thrown at it.
That game that I played against your Shuriken list, it was what? You took it down to, was it 1 or 2 wounds turn 1?
It got left with 1, and it just kept regenning.
Yeah, it kept regenning, and I think I had a Tomb Spider nearby, and then by the
Yes.
time I think it turned 4, it was back up to full wounds. He just could not kill it.
Well, I feel like at that point you'd just be doing what you do if you're facing a Tyranids player. Don't shoot the big ones. Shoot the small ones that aren't going to come back.
Yeah, except most
They're Necrons, so they come back. Yeah,
Necrons do come back, but with Nids at the moment, at least from my experience fighting them, there's no little ones. They're all just the big ones.
Seriously, people just running Carnifices?
The one person I know that plays Nid, basically it's Hive Tyrant, actually Swarm Lord, I should say, a Flyrant,
Swarmlord.
some Warriors, Zoanthropes, Neurothrope, Venom Thropes, couple of other things that I can't remember the name of. Probably ends with
There was
throat.
Malceptors.
What are their troop choices?
Warriors.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, they're decent enough.
Oh look,
I know everyone's saying these days Swarm Lords are like the must pick for Tyranids. I remember when Hive Tyrant was the only HQ choice,
Good
and they made a
times.
big deal about bringing out Brood Lords.
Yeah.
I remember when Old One Eye was a valid option for a HQ choice.
I miss Old One Eye. That
We
was
all
fun.
do. Back in the
Uh,
day, where to kill a Terminator, what was their save? It was like a 5. You had to roll it on 2d6.
mm.
That was fantastic. Bring that back in 10th.
Oh, on yesterday it must have been the Librarian survived 2 turns because he did fire off his psychic powers twice, so he had to survive at least 2. But the second time, he dealt a just in the psychic phase, he got the Flyrant down to like 3 wounds. Just in the psychic phase, it's like boom. And then of course the Flyrant, I flamestorm. Was it I flamestormed Ken or just storm bolted him to death at that point? One of the two. The point is, he did not get into combat with me because I know that thing is goddamn terrifying in close combat. It had to die before that happened.
Oh, it's so gross.
Good times.
There's few things that I would willingly charge into it.
Look, if I didn't kill it in the shooting phase, I was going to charge a blob of 10 Terminators into it.
Even then, I feel like that's a coin cost.
Well, provided that the Terminators go first, it's pretty screwed. Because keep in mind, I was running the Rapier's Brotherhood, so you throw Symphonic Strike on them for +1 attack on each of them, so that's an extra 10 attacks straight off the bat. So you're bumping the 31 attacks up to 41 attacks.
Yep.
The other rule that we were playing, so we were playing the open war, was all models are -1 strength. So I would have been wounding on 5s, which with that volume of attacks probably would have been fine, given it only had 3 wounds left at the end of the psychic phase. And they're all AP -2 damage weapons, being halberds. So I mean, if they'd gotten in there, that would have been fine, but it succumbed to Land Raider, because Land Raiders are not terrible. They're just not
overly
cheap.
priced. Yeah.
I'm not even sure if they're overly priced because.
Oh no, they are.
Are they?
Abaddon is like what 25 points more than a Land Raider, and he has got to be one of the most killiest thing that's out at the moment.
Can Abaddon carry 6 Terminators?
Look, he's got everything else. I wouldn't be surprised if transport isn't the keyword.
The only thing the model can't carry is his sword arm.
Ooh, shots fired. I'm pretty sure the only thing that he can't carry is a Black Crusade, actually.
Oh, did you hear they retconned that? He achieved the strategic objectives of every Black Crusade.
No,
Which
I don't buy it.
Honestly, I can get behind it, just like I can get behind Primaris Marines. I think they were good for the setting.
I have mixed feelings about Primaris Marines. I mean, for one point, at the moment, I don't see a lot of difference between them and regular Marines, other than they're a bit taller now that regular Marines have got 2 wounds.
Honestly, if you ask me, I think regular Marines should have been as tall as what Primaris Marines are.
Well, yeah.
I think Primaris Marines, yeah, do they feel a little bit janky? Does it bother me that I can't use them with stuff like Rhinos, Land Raiders, your classic vehicles that I still love? Yeah, it does bother me, but for me, they have the scale that a Space Marine should now.
That's fair. It bothers me very little because I don't have to deal with them. It's Firstborn Grey Knights or nothing. Which actually, look, I play Grey Knights, and what I'm about to say is probably going to upset some Grey Knights players. I'm going to say that we're slightly too powerful, in my opinion, because it's 2-point difference between a Strike Marine and a Primaris Marine, and for those 2 extra points, you get an extra attack, unless they've changed something since I last checked. You get to be a psyker, so that's cool. You get a gun that is different, but arguably, the same sort of value. It doesn't have AP, but it gets twice as many shots, so that's good. I mean, I'd rather have twice as many shots and a bit of extra AP, and just drown the opponent in volume of dice. But they also, in addition to getting a
I
decent
concur.
gun, they get a choice of like 5 different close combat weapons that are all good for 2 points.
I think that's fairly fair observation. Not fair rules wise, but observation.
Look, I'd probably be happy to pay, 24 points a Marine for him. But look, DW, don't do that. I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just saying that, when people say Grey Knights are good, I totally get it. They are good. I mean, they're not, when the NIDS Codex was first released, good. Like any army at a tournament level that is winning 70% of its games, there's something fundamentally broken there.
Yes and no. Tyranny's Codex was definitely broken. And we knew it was broken for a long time because it was leaked before the book was released. But the Harlequins, for example, I don't think they got into broken territory. They didn't have an insane amount of output. Like, yeah, they could move, and light was really strong. I think the biggest issue was that there was just so much spam of the Void Weaver. I think that's kind of where marketing more kicked in, where we were seeing entire tournaments like top 10 was the exact same list. They kind of had to do something to make the game interesting, so they weren't just selling clowns.
And you'd come down to lists where you'd have the exact same list facing off against itself, and the entire game basically came down to who got slightly luckier dice rolls.
That was exactly it. Like, that actually happened in one of the GTs after the book became legal for tournament. The last 2 games were mirrored lists. Like, everything was exactly the same. Like, literally I've got a picture still of it on my phone. It was so mirrored that the color schemes were the same. It was
they were both airbrushed.
Yeah.
Because when you're meta chasing cuck, obviously you're just going to get airbrushed to get them painted as fast as possible.
Yep. Yeah, and I think honestly that was probably the big thing, because I've been an elf player for some time now. And look, don't get me wrong, the book is strong. I wouldn't quite say go to broken. There were some aspects that were a little bit silly and overpowered. But yeah, I don't think broken. Nids definitely was. That was just stupid.
Well, does anyone remember what the win rate for clowns was when the book was first released?
76.8.
76.
I'm pretty from memory. It was somewhere
bad.
around there. But in saying that, like, you have to remember there was no Armor of Contempt. Marines were nowhere to be seen in the meta. Necrons were not in a good place.
Necrons were at like a win rate of like, it was either the high 30s or low 40s off memory.
Ooh.
Something like that. Yeah, and the book that was released before it that everybody just started taking in was Tau.
Although,
so like all these shooting armies and against something like light where, you know, you're automatically failing on a 1 to 3 to hit with range, you just take out everything the Tau do.
Yep. Although that being said, with the Necron's win rate being as low as it was, I'm not sure if that's entirely down to the Codex, you know, just being old and suffering from power creep. I think a lot of that is also down to the fact that the starter set is Necrons versus Space Marines at the moment, which means a lot of newer players are either Necrons or Space Marines.
Yeah.
Which, of course, newer players aren't going to be they're not as experienced, they're not as good at the game, generally speaking. Obviously, there's exceptions to this. But if you have them show up at tournaments, they're going to, if they're not experienced, they're going to pull that average win rate down just purely from that. The other issue that I have with drawing massive conclusions like this army is so overpowered or this army is just terrible based off of those numbers that they put out is that, first of all, you don't know how many people actually bought that army. So it might just be, this particular subfaction of Space Marines has a really high win rate because one person bought it and they happen to be really good with it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, say that's like there was GT a little while ago, just after AOC became legal, and it was White Scars that won. Like, we hadn't even seen White Scars enter a tournament for however long before that. And like, one, I hear that he was a ridiculously good player, but that you really have to take that into account. How, like, what is the skill level? What's the experience of these players that are bringing lists like this? And like White Scars, they're not hard to play. Like, they're fairly similar, but there is a lot going on with them. If you're an experienced White Scar player, you can be devastating. And that was even pre Armor of Contempt. But now it's just, I think Armor of Contempt's ridiculous, to be quite frank. And I play Chaos as a second army, where I get it.
Well, look, here's a question. If instead of putting in Armor of Contempt, they had just put in the data slate, subtract 1 from the armor save of all Space Marines, like everyone with a Astartes keyword made their armor save 1 better. So regular Marines became a 2-up save. You had Terminators become a 1-up save. Just like do that. Would people be complaining about that as much?
Yeah, probably, because it was still mostly Marine stuff.
I mean, it would functionally do the same thing, but because it's no longer going, your AP is now meaningless, it's still, the AP is still technically a mechanic there. Like, AP -1 still matters as opposed to AP 0.
I think the whole armor penetration is probably the issue. Like, it used to be special, but now literally everything has it.
Yeah, that is kind of annoying.
And back in the day, you used to have to spec into armor penetration in order to hit certain things. It was AP3, which is what you needed if you wanted to kill Space Marines without them having their entire 3+ armor save. These days, you can kind of just whittle them away. And honestly, it feels like it's a little bit less special to have a unit with high armor because you can deal with it a lot more easy than you could.
And see, that leads into like another question of invuln saves. It's exactly the same thing. Like before, there was not a lot of things with invuln save, and I know as we get better, they're always trying to outdo with the next unit and specs and data sheets.
Got
Not to
more
mention the
models.
hammerhead now.
Yeah. But see, like now, like you're talking a massive power for anybody to have is, you know, ignores invulns or ignores ignoring wounds, which is a pretty big deal. Like when you start talking like Nightbringers and Abaddon, which is stupidly underpriced at the moment. He should be at least 400 points. But I think they've gone so over. I'm hoping 10th is just a complete wipe and reset. Like I would love to see everything. I'd love to see initiative come back.
I think the biggest problem they have is that they don't write all the books at once. So you end up having serious power creep issues because all the books are spaced apart and kind of in a delayed way reacting to the meta, at least from what I can see.
Having said that, General's Handbook does make it somewhat easier to balance from year to year.
Well, they're putting that out, every 6 months now, aren't they? Or is it every 3 months now?
Yes.
God only knows. Mission packs have popped up to quarterly.
Oh, look,
they found their dollars in that one.
Look, I'm kind of feeling exhausted with the constant mission pack updates. Like, I didn't get Nephilim because I'm just like, I don't feel like spending another $80 for a mission pack that I'm going to play like maybe 6 times.
Yep. And so that's the issue. Like, and bringing Zach into it again, that's why he wants everything to go digital. Like, make it like if these things were a lot cheaper, like we're now talking $80 books to last 3 months, where like codexes are no better at the moment.
Well, with day one FAQs to them, that's not good.
Actually, well, I think the FAQ actually came out the day before the book was officially released. Like, Iron Warriors has instantly had a different trait the second the book came out.
Whoopsie.
Yeah. Like, everyone's looking at Iron Warriors are really cool. This has changed their trait. No, this has changed the trait for the book that's about to come out. And that's what, like, Zach is right. And God, I'll never say that again.
Look, it's a good thing he's not
at
here
least it can be a living... I hope he never watches this. But no, he's right. It should be it is a living, breathing document as far as what changes they're making, and digital would make sense. The big issue that I have, and this is where Zach and I start to argue with it, is one, I'm an OG player. I started back in 3rd. I like the books. But 2, GW are just so terrible with anything digital. Warhammer Plus is horrible.
I like
some of the shows are really cool. So the shows are cool. It's just, hell, you get a new mission pack before we get another episode of Hammer and Bolter.
Actually, on the point of the digital being terrible, I'd love to see a little bit of consistency, because I've got the army builder for free on Age of Sigmar, and yet I have to buy in-app purchases, basically DLC, in order to use an army builder for 40k. It's no wonder that one might use something like Wahapedia or Battle Scribe, because you just give us something for free, you know? Like, people buy the books for the modeling, for the painting, the conversion, the kit bashing ideas, the lore. That's all valid things to have in a book.
Most of that stuff's not in the latest set of codexes. I mean, there's the lore and the rules, and basically that's it.
Well, I did see some conversion stuff in my Imperial Guard Codex that I picked up. It might have been, I think, either 8th edition or 9th edition, and I've been using conversion ideas from that. But if that's the way they're going, mind you, this has been a long time coming, because if you go back to issue like 200, 250 of White Dwarf, you had some incredibly detailed lore, campaigns, all of that. They just gave you that in a $10 White Dwarf. Now White Dwarf, even 10 years ago, by the time I had no disposable income left to play, I was you could already see that half of that stuff had gone. And now I bought my first White Dwarf issue in 10 years, a couple months ago, and there's not all that much to it. There's certainly some pretty cool giveaways. Like I definitely, if I played Corn, and I might
think
pick
you
up this.
definitely should. I mean, look, I'm going to say something that is going to absolutely piss off Cal here, but I think the new Engron model looks sick.
Oh, it's
It
horrible.
does.
It's disgusting.
I just
Like,
told you it was going to trigger him hard.
I get that he's basically a bloodthirster. That's fine. But the issue I have is the bloodthirster models are horrible. I've always hated. They've just been the most ugly, clunkiest,
I don't think that
goat-headed things. There's so many fantastic. Like they literally released a demon not that long ago, Bellicor, who has been
He
the
is a
best
sick
sculpt.
model.
Oh, it's amazing. And then they bring out Aggron, who literally has the face of a smash crab.
Look here.
I can't get behind some of those things.
Here we go. No, we'll go back.
Actually, while we're on the subject of Primarchs, do we want more loyalist Primarchs?
No.
Yes and no. I mainly just want to see Rowboat and the Lion go toe to toe. I think that would be hilarious.
Lion's next.
Is that confirmed at this point?
Everyone's saying
information.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's
that wasn't a
confirmed.
leak. Yeah. Well, see, the guy that's leaked it has been 100% on every other leak for this entire edition.
To the point that I'd suggest he's a Games Workshop insider who's been instructed to leak this stuff to build hype.
Well, that would explain the low-res images.
Oh, no, GW been calling the potato pics.
Potato pics.
Potato pics. That's what like that was the line that they used was Angron. You know, somebody's really angry about the potato pics leaked online.
Here's a good one.
It's not a leak. Like in this day and age, everybody has a smartphone with a fantastic camera. There is absolutely no way that photo has been taken and spread across the internet in that resolution. It's not possible.
Here you go, Cal. I have just found the best Bloodthirster sculpt ever made. You are going to love this.
Is it the OG Angron?
I'm going to share my screen and I will show you this Bloodthirster. This is the best Bloodthirster sculpt ever made.
That's fantastic.
My
this one,
God,
right
it's a
here.
work of art.
So in that same release with the old Rogue Traeger stuff, if you have a look at the old Demon Angron, I have been looking for one of those for years. And thanks to GW being ridiculous with old models, I don't see how he's not legal. I would put him on the table as a 25mm base. There's my Angron.
Look, I'd allow it, but I have a hunch you won't get away with that at a tournament.
So, but here's the thing. Refer to GW rule packs. If you're not telling me in the player pack that this is banned, because they do let quite a, I'm not going to say all of them, but they do let quite a few models kind of slip through with new basing after repackaging.
Suppose.
Like, what's Angron going to be on? Like an 80
mil.
or something?
I mean,
100 mil. There you go.
Mortarian's on 100 mil, so I imagine Angron would be on 100 mil.
What about
Makes
Magnus?
sense.
What's he running?
He's on 100 as well, I believe. I will double check though. Where is it? James Workshop.
There's a feel good story about failing upwards.
Failing. Look, let's accept some cookies. Let's go Magnus. Let's see. Magnus the Red. Here he is.
So look, even that's a better model than the new Angron.
I
think
they're both good.
Encapsulate.
Where is it? Let's see. Citadel Paints. Does it say?
Product information, maybe?
Not suitable for children. It doesn't say here what size base he's on. No,
Why do they say it's not suitable for children? It's literally their intro market.
It's right here. Supplied with a
100
100 mil base.
Yeah.
There you go.
See, I would rather spend $400 on Bellicor and Magnus and kit bash him to make a much prettier angry Ron.
Well, I mean,
That's probably why he's so angry. Look at what the sculpt he ended up with.
look, I think that anywhere you can kit bash, you definitely should. I mean, me and every single other person that has played this game since, when was it? 2011, I think it was, when Finecast happened.
Fine.
Failcast, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a fan of Finecast. Look, don't get me wrong, the sculpts are mad. I love most of the sculpts, but the Finecast material is just not. It's just not a good material.
It's not.
In Australia, at least. In other countries where where a 35-degree day is like, oh, it's kind of warm outside. That's fairly
What's an
normal.
outside?
Look, there's a reason that every single home in Australia has air conditioning.
I'd also like to...
No, sorry, you go.
I'd also like to suggest as well, while we're on the subject of Angron's sculpt, maybe we're only seeing it from one angle, because I found myself... Because like when I was building my Black Templars army, I'd see some models in particular poses, and I'm thinking that doesn't look particularly dynamic at all. But then when I actually put it together and rotated the model, I'm like, oh yeah, I see how that works. So maybe the photo isn't doing it justice. I'm willing to hold my judgment until I actually see it in the flesh.
That's fair.
Look, that's fairly valid. But I'm stuck on the picture now of the new Templars with bowl cuts.
Glorious.
It's what all the kids are wearing these days. What better that than mullets?
I would go mullets before bowl cut.
Should I green stuff some my neophytes with mullets?
Do it.
Of course.
Do it. I've got to sculpt up and 3D print some jeans for Reese's Jean Stealers to be running off with.
Oh, please put them on a clothesline.
While we're talking,
fantastic if you're just running off with a clothesline.
While we're talking about sculpts, actually, I have to do some show and tell if that's all right with you guys.
That is okay.
The thing that Bob, sorry, go on.
While you grab that, if you want to grab.
I've got it right here.
You've got it right here. Okay.
So one of the things that really bothers me about dreadnoughts is that, like, they're supposed to be ancient, venerable, veterans of the chapter, right? Mm-hmm. And if they're important enough to be put in a dreadnought body, then they're probably pretty, up there leadership sort of quality people. And I always felt like the super rigid sort of, this is my dreadnought, here are my guns, boom, 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 sort of thing. I always felt that was a little bit, doesn't do justice to them. So what I've gone and done with this Redemptor, and yes, I know Redemptors burn out the pilots, but I've actually gone with a setup where
very nice.
Got him on a base, and I've actually got him pointing. Get right into that camera. I actually had to shave off a bit of that bottom finger to make his finger curl around. Ooh. But now it actually looks like he's pointing. I've got him with his gun up, so to speak.
Yeah, so he looks a bit more dynamic.
Yes, yeah. Because every dreadnought picture I've seen, not dynamic at all.
Well, look, I'll grab something now and do some show and tell, because that's fun.
I want to see show and tell.
They're not fully painted yet, and one of them needs repainting because I painted it when I was like 14. But for some comparison, my two Dread Knights here, because Grey Knights and Dread Knights are cool. Standard issue baby carrier. Yep. Even here I've made a bit more dynamic, like pointing the gun up into the sky a bit, but just standing there. Boring, lame, absolutely terrible that it's such a pain in the ass to move his legs. Dynamic.
Oh, that looks
much better.
See, this was an absolute nightmare to do, though, because you have to cut the knee joint, and you have to be so fine with it, or it looks terrible.
But this is what I'm talking about. Like, these sort of, like, as soon as I saw the Dread Knight 10 years ago, I was just like, no, just no.
It's a baby carrier.
Yeah. But as soon as I see what you've done with that, I'm like, that's what a Dread Knight should be. Like, Space Marines are not stayed, they're not, you know, immobile sort of things. They can move with preternatural skill and speed. And I'd love to see that dynamism reflected in their constructs.
You know what he reminds me of? Like, not quite as bad, but the old school Space Marines that came in like the 3rd edition starter set, where they're just a solid piece and they're just holding the bolt gun in front, just standing there. All of them.
I remember the only things you used to glue on was the base, the backpack, and the bolter.
Yes. It's like, look, to be fair, the Dread Knight sculpt is like 12 years old now. So, I mean, it's nice that it's at least possible to
their
do
last
up
sculpt
like
was
this.
92.
Oh, jeez. Oh, look, I guess good thing that we have, what's it called? Squats coming back. That's fun.
Yeah, I'm actually super keen for those. One of my friends has been like, oh, I don't think I'm into Warhammer 40k. And I've been trying to get him into 40k for ages because, like, I was Warhammer Fantasy Battles all the way, and 40k was like my secondary. But as soon as they took away WFB, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm into 40k now. And he's been resisting it for so long, but he was a dwarf player back in the day. So now we're actually getting him back in.
Look, I do like the idea of space dwarfs, and I think what I like the most about these sculpts that we're getting is they look just beefy and bulky, and they look proper dwarfy and short as opposed to just regular humans that have been shrunk down. They still have the bulk to them, which I think is fantastic. Also, depending on how tall the models actually are when they come out, maybe we can just substitute old school Marines for them. Because they're all short.
No, like I'm one of the other ones. I like the models for new squats, but they're just not new squats to me. Like, you're going to have to give me at least 50% with beards down to their knees before I kind of took them as squats. Or at least a land train. Give me the land train back.
Land trains, look, to be fair, I'm fairly sure they haven't shown us everything that they're going to be putting out for them.
Definitely.
Oh, they absolutely haven't shown us everything yet.
Maybe they are putting maybe the land train will be in there.
I actually hope that the land train, like the carriages, become optional war gear that you can just buy the additional. That would be fantastic.
I'm sure they will eventually. If not at the initial release, eventually.
Because I'm going to be the guy with the land train, just carriages everywhere, lined up across my entire deployment zone. And that's where we're starting.
Well, the only other game you can play armored trains in is Flames of War, which is World War II sort of stuff. So to see a land train it would be a significant selling point for Leagues of Votan as well, like to have something that no other faction does.
Yeah,
true. I do like having unique things in factions, so they don't just feel like a reskin copy and paste of other factions.
Marines,
all of them.
All of them.
Just all of them.
Hey, my Marines have chains around their hands.
That's edgy and cool, I think.
That's also all of them.
Yeah.
Look, I think that is one of the big criticisms of Marines is so many of them just feel like ever so slight twists on the same cut and paste formula.
But how do you stop that from being a thing without having to release a different codex for each subfaction?
Well, you do what they did with the Grey Knights, which actually feel like their own faction, and you do release a separate codex with unique and interesting rules.
Yeah. I mean, I like what they're doing with the Chaos Legions. You've got Nurgle, which feels like it's impossible to dislodge. You've got Tzeentch, which I don't know terribly much about Tzeentch. I would love to see.
They like birds and books.
I'd love to see the World Eaters have that emphasis on close combat without sacrificing too much firepower or something like that. I'd actually love to see some Blood Pact in there as well.
Could be interesting.
Like I haven't had the opportunity to read the codex, the Chaos Codex that's come out because I am poor and I don't collect Chaos, although I'm sorely tempted.
I love the
good.
artwork on it.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it?
But they just have cultists in there, don't they? As your human meat shield sort of unit.
Yeah. So there's actually three technically cultists now. So you have your cultist mob, which is your standard meat shield, 5 points a model, do absolutely nothing.
Just make them impossible
shot.
to kill and set them on an objective.
Basically, yeah. But I don't think they can even do actions now.
Oh, that's lame.
They're basically servitors.
Servitors are fantastic though because they're cheap and I can put plasma cannons on them, and I find this hilarious when on the rare occasion where they hit. Like, I mean, here we go, story time again. So last weekend I was playing a game against Chris's Thousand Suns. Tempest of War, because it is the best mission pack ever made. Good work, Games Workshop, on that. Tempest War
For this quarter.
for this. Look, like I said, I haven't bought the Nephilim mission pack because I find it boring, to be honest. I'm kind of bored of matched play, just because every mission pack feels like it's kind of the same with a slight twist on it. Like, oh, CPs are halved, but you're going to get twice as many per battle round. It's like, it's kind of interesting, I suppose, but the thing that is fantastic about Tempest is that every single game feels proper unique, because you're never going, well, never going to. There's technically a possibility you'll have two games where you get the exact same cards drawn, but your deployment zone and your main objectives rarely are ever going to line up. And then you've got your twists on top of that. So, if you're on an objective, you're going to cop mortal wounds, that sort of thing. Which actually was one of the rules that we had in this game, which was really fun given that Grey Knights have a 5-up shrug to mortal wounds. I could sit on objectives with impunity. But, so I had my unit of 4 servitors, one of them with a plasma cannon. Servitors are ballistic skill 5, so hitting on 5+. Flyer comes over, and I'm like, I don't feel like getting roasted by that. Plasma cannon turns, faces at it, fires off. It's a flyer, so it's -1 to hit. So I'm rolling 6s. I roll 2 6s. Well, first I roll my D3 shots. I get 2 shots. 2 6s to hit. I'm like, great, I've hit it twice. I should do something here, because at least now I'm wounding it on 3s. Double 2s.
That just pains me.
Look, to be fair, next turn it flew over and got storm bolted to death.
And of course, it's just like everything else I do. Like I could run 100 bright lances at something and it does nothing. But then here we go with the Farseer's single shuriken pistol shot, and bang, it's wounded and it's gone through.
I mean, actually, I want to know more about the cultists. So we've got the meat shield cultists.
Yeah. So we've got cultist mobs, and then we've got another bunch. So you've got your mutant cultists, and then your torments. Now you can run those.
So what do the torments do?
Oh, let me find the data sheet. They're basically just really big and nasty. But these things you can bring back wounds, or you can bring back to life, and that kind of thing. That's kind of the horrible.
As a Necron player, I do enjoy getting wounds back and bringing things back to life. Definitely a big plus in my book.
It's a big plus in my new book too.
Oh crap! So everyone keeps stealing my rules.
So like with the accursed, if you just have the mutants, you can return up to 3 destroyed mutant models in the unit, or you can return 1 torment with its full wounds. Keeping in mind that it has 3 wounds, strength 5, toughness 4, 2d3 attacks, but they will have t-shirt saves, as they should.
T-shirt saves are still a save, technically speaking.
See, what I'd like to see from Khorne, and I don't know if we'll get it, but what I'd like to see from Khorne is World Eaters. They should all be berserkers because that's what they are. They've all got the nails in there. They're all just insane. If they want some reasonable range support, and let's be honest, all armies should have some range support in 40k. That's just how it works. They should instead run Blood Pact. No, Blood Pact. Like they're professionalism, like they're Trader Guard who have a professionalism akin to like Kazakhstan. So it doesn't sacrifice too much of it doesn't sacrifice the elite nature of the army, although you're going to have to be a little bit more careful with them because they are more fragile.
Yeah.
Look, what I'm kind of disappointed about with the Chaos Codex, and it's something that I was really hoping they would do, but deep down inside, I knew it was not going to happen. Legion artillery for the Iron Warriors.
Oh.
I wanted basilisks with Space Marines on them. That's all I want.
I remember back in the early 2000s, there was an Australian guy who worked for Games Workshop. His Iron Warriors army was featured, and he had a basilisk in that army.
I'm pretty sure that you can run basilisks, or an equivalent, in Horus Heresy, but not in 40k, which is kind of disappointing.
I guess it makes for a good return of Percy with hopefully obliterated Percy with a lot of big guns.
Look, Obliterators are looking quite good for the new book. And if anyone bidded against me on that eBay listing, I am not sorry. Because I picked myself up 3 old school metal Obliterators for like, I think I paid, it was off the top of my head, I think it was like 85 Australian micro pesos for them. To be fair,
the
listings for the plastic
Obliterators
are like 105 for one Obliterator in plastic.
For one. Yep.
Because, well, I think GW only put the plastic Obliterator sculpt in like one or two.
The start collecting
boxes. You could never buy them by themselves, so you see them pop up on eBay here and there, and with stupid prices on them.
Yeah. So like there's a listing at the moment. There are 150 for the 2 Obliterators, and it was 100 and like most places. My shop, I sold it for 120 for the starter box.
I mean,
it's just stupid prices.
Why would I be paying $150 for 2 models when I can get 3 for 90 or 85 or whatever it was? I think there was some GST in there as well.
But I think the thing that's also we're going to say is Obliterators, they're in a funny spot. They're really, really good. Like, I love them. They're that good. But they can't take a mark or an icon.
Okay.
So people are just a lot of people are sitting on them. I'm not seeing them turn up in a lot of lists. And when I do, it kind of just looks like a filler.
Well, look, I'm going to take them to fill a very specific role. I'm probably going to be running a lot of spearhead detachments because I like my tanks.
With how many CP?
Look, we'll be playing Tempest, so it's fine.
Cheating.
It's not cheating. It's playing a different mission pack because the current tournament mission pack is boring to me. I don't find it interesting.
And just like that, we'll never get a sponsorship now.
That's okay. I was never getting a sponsorship anyway.
I was going to go straight for it. I want new models.
Look, I'm okay with buying the models and then just writing them off on tax.
Oh dear. No, the mission pack thing is silly. Like, I like the idea behind it if it was trying to keep it fresh. It did not happen because they're just rehashing slight variations on the same thing.
Even going from GT21 to Warzone Nuckmund, I mean, if there was some slight changes, but not heaps. I mean, I suppose going from just having one primary objective to 2, that is a significant change, I suppose.
Yeah.
But the second primary objective that you got was usually something you'd probably be doing anyway. So is it that much
Yeah.
more of a functional change, really?
See, I would have preferred like a D6 chart. Just give us 6 objectives. You roll program. That's what you got to do. It also keep a lot of the lists actually interesting.
Well, I mean,
Meta
that's where
chasing.
I think, as far as tournaments and meta at the moment, I think the big problem is people are writing lists around the secondaries they're going to take, which is
Yeah.
part of what I like about Tempest so much. The secondaries that you're playing, it's you draw 3 secondaries a turn, and you either can discard them at the end of your turn, you can pay a CP to discard and redraw at the start, or you just hold on to them until you complete them. And it's just you complete that secondary, 5 points. And then go draw a new one, which means you don't know what secondaries are come up. So when it comes to list building, you have to build a balanced list.
It just makes it so much more interesting.
Which, I mean, it solves the problem of having people tailoring lists to complete just 3 very specific tasks. They have to be able to do everything. It's part of the reason why the Grey Knights list I'm running at the moment, because we are playing a lot of Tempest in our local meta. It works really well because it's got stuff that can jump from one side of the table to the other via either the teleport, shunt strat, or Gate of Infinity. It has stuff that's fairly durable, being, Space Marines, Terminators, Armor of Contempt. It's nice and durable. It can also punch reasonably hard in the Psychic and Fighting phase. Shooting phase, being Grey Knights, I mean, there are things you can take to have really good shooting, but you're sacrificing a lot of the other stuff, and it's probably better to just go fighting and psychic focused. So I think in the Tempest secondaries deck there is one card that I just am never going to be able to do, and that is killing 3 things in the shooting phase.
Yeah.
Everything else, there are some situations I won't be able to do it. Like if at turn 1 I draw capture your enemy's objective, I'm probably going to discard that and try to get something else I can get a bit sooner. But
you need elf speed.
Look, technically I could get over there. I could just throw a Gate of Infinity. I could teleport in there. But turn 1, trying to capture your opponent's objective, speed's not the problem. The problem is they have their entire army on it. So, look, at that point, I'd rather just not, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't like the idea as well. Well, actually, no, I do. I love the idea of getting into the end of his deployment and deep inside the first turn.
Oh, look, it's fun to do, but
as the running joke is, that's just how I play, and specifically with Harlequins. Like we've been joking for how long now that it doesn't matter what I play, it's Khorne.
Yes, it is true.
Except for when it actually comes to building a Khorne list, and I make sure that thing is perfectly balanced. For some reason, it just doesn't. It was ridiculous. But elves, I'll play Khorne elves. I don't care if things die. The elves, they're gonna die.
I think they can.
My biggest thing is
like
what's the
12 of them
stupid?
left.
Yeah, but we got soul stones. That's fine.
Which
brings actually kind of circles us back to the Primarch thing. I would love to see Conrad come back, because I'm pretty sure, and I think this will start up some stuff, but the crown that he was wearing supposedly had a soul stone in it when he died. Now, I can't find anything in lore that says that he can't.
If they use it to bring him back, they'd better bring him back with pointy ears.
Oh, I would love Demon Curse.
Would be fun. Look, I want Demon Portarablo because
Peter Turbo.
Look, it would be fantastic because, I mean, if Angron is basically just a bigger, beefier Bloodthirster, then Portarablo is just a bigger, beefier Obliterator.
Essentially, yeah. And that would be awesome.
That'd be incredible.
Chaos needs some shooting.
It'd be just so fun. Also, Chaos need assassins.
Oh yeah,
Assassins are so
I have
much
been
fun.
saying this for ages, and Zach has been fighting me the whole way. But I would like to see the 4 assassins turn into their own book and just go super elite with small units, just like the Harlequins were in 8. I think that would be so much fun. It'd be fantastic.
I don't entirely agree.
What book are the assassins in at the moment?
At the moment, they are in one of the Psychic Awakening books.
Right.
One of the supplements from the end of last edition. Their rules are outdated. They're fine. I mainly take them just to troll people. So I play Grey Knights, and there's nothing I like doing more than taking the Calexis Assassin, which basically neuters all psychic powers. But I only take it when fighting Thousand Suns. So turn 2, I deep strike it in behind his back line and just sit it there. Because it has a rule where it can only be hit on a 6+, he can't reliably kill it without just sheer volume of shots. Because it's 6+ to hit, it's toughness 4, and then it's got like 5 or 6 wounds and a 4-up invuln save. So it's gonna take a lot of shots to get through that.
And all of this for 100 points.
And all of it for 100 points. And while it's just sitting there for the 2 or 3 turns it takes him to kill it, -2 to all psychic powers within 18. So he's now Thousand Suns are already +1 to their psychic test, but he's now -1, so that's already putting him on the back foot. But Grey Knights are also +1 to deny.
Oh.
And then you start to get really cheeky with it and put in an orbital bombardment.
Yes.
So he's got to move away before he's casting anything. But if he's moving in there, he's going to get blown up.
Yeah, that's is a trick that I really thoroughly enjoy doing with Grey Knights at the moment. It costs me 3 CP to do, which I mean it's not cheap. But orbital bombardment just straight in front of my opponent's army turn 1. They now have 2 choices. Choice A, move forward. If they're not fast, they're moving into it and getting hit with a whole bunch of mortal wounds. Choice B, stay back, and they've now wasted 20% of their turns for the game. For 3 CP, forcing your opponent to choose between those 2 things, I'm of the opinion it's worth it. If anyone wants to, disagree with me on that, present your argument.
Look, with the new mission pack, it got way more expensive, but
this is true. But again,
it's
I don't play the new mission pack because I don't like it.
See, it's a big game swinger. Like as you talking about, 20% of their maybe game. Like that's assuming that they're lasting for 5 turns. That's huge.
Well, in addition to that, it puts me on the forward foot because I'm able to go up and take the center field objectives unopposed.
Yep.
And then, once I plop a unit of 10 Terminators on that objective, good luck taking it from me.
Yeah. See, and it's the same thing that I used to do with Helldrakes, just to really, really put pressure on, because they move so stupidly fast. Like they are literally up the other end of the table. They've got a 20 to 60 inch movement. It's just a pressure pusher. That's all it is. I remember playing Reese when the Gene Stealer book came out, and they sets everything up in bleeps, and you can't see it until you're within 9. I'm flying these 2 Helldrakes straight up into where he's deployed, and he has to bring out everything. And then it's that entire mechanic just became completely and utterly useless.
Yeah.
Because not only that, now he's got to set up all these units with that much extra space gone. So everything is just squished into where it has to be and not where he wants it to be. And that was a huge pressure pusher.
Yeah, so you've now turned his mechanic that's supposed to help him into one that's hindering him, because you found a way to exploit it. I mean, that's kind of what I do with the orbital bombardment. I just throw it down, and turn 1's usually the armies just slowly move towards each other, but then take some pot shots. But basically, he can't take any pot shots because he's out of range. with most of his stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And then
And so, and that's where.
throw on top of
There you
that
go.
that I've got Tide of Shadows usually in effect turn 1. So if I'm actually in light cover, I'm now -1 to hit as well. And I'm
That thing was horrible.
Oh, look, playing against your bikes list, that was fantastic because you just couldn't hit me.
I also couldn't use something called restraint.
That didn't
So-
help. You did go full cornet.
So I made this entire list, and the whole idea of it, everything was on a bike. Nothing was ever to get caught. Everything could, they had stupid movement, a stupid amount of shots. So what's the first thing I do? First turn T1, move straight up like 6 inches away from its entire deployment line and just get touched. The one thing that the army was built to not do, and it's exactly how I played it.
You fool.
But for the meme, it was hilarious. We're talking about this, 6 months later?
Look, the best part of it was that come my turn 1 then, I walk forward, and then I charge you and cut you.
Everything got touched.
And everything.
There was literally 1 unit on my home objective that was not within 6 inches on the first turn.
And if we'd played more than like 3 turns of that game, I could just, Gate of Infinity something up there and cut it.
Yeah. But see, that's also why I left the a Farseer up there with them.
It wasn't going to help. They were still just going to get diced up like paper.
Oh, the whole idea was I was hoping you'd drop something back there, and I was going to use Forewarned and start mortal wounding with ranger guns.
It wasn't going to be enough. I have a 5-up shrug against mortal wounds.
Yeah, that's fine. I am one of those people that's really not attached to their models. I am more likely to do something because it's hilarious.
Hilarious is look, rule of cool.
Exactly. That's but like even down to stupid things, like there's something that could, and I can think of half a dozen instances where I've actually done it, especially against Zach. I can go and do something that would guarantee that I win the game, or I could do something hilarious, which would basically guarantee that I'm going to lose the game. Like I remember charging my last Farseer into, I think it was Trajan or something.
No, couldn't have been Trajan. He's back on Terra now.
He's banned.
He's banned. He got put in the pot of greed.
But it's just the hilarity of just some things that can pop up in game, especially when you're playing with people like in our internal meta. I think that's more fun than actually winning.
Yes.
Zach and I had a conversation a while ago when he finally beat me, and he was saying, "Is this how you guys feel?" And the first thing is, we win so much that the sparkle's kind of gone off it. We now just kind of play to see what's the stupidest thing that we can do. Hence the birth of the Shuriken list.
Oh, look, speaking of stupid things to do, in the 3-person game we had yesterday, you want to know what killed that last Gene Stealer?
I do. Please say it was himself.
Silence bombardment.
Because of course it was.
In my first command phase, I was like, okay, I know he's going that way, and he's going to try. I was expecting him to push the whole army forward to like put roadblocks in the way and basically just play keep away with the Gene Steal. So I, classic threat saturation tactics where I can't shoot the thing I want to shoot because if I ignore this thing right in front of me, it's going to kill me. I was expecting him to do that, so I just dropped an orbital bombardment in front of him so he couldn't. But then, because of where I dropped it, he just moved the Gene Stealers too. Forgetting that my command phase comes before his next movement phase, the Gene Stealers got hit with the orbital bombardment.
Get wrecked.
And that orbital bombardment dealt out like 6 mortal wounds.
You think there's any walking away from that?
I mean, it dealt out 2 mortal wounds to the one gene stealer that was still there, so it was rooted, and then dealt out a bunch to some of the other units that were also around. And then at that point, because I think on some level it did prevent him from coming forward as much as he would have liked to, it meant that next turn, Land Raider and Interceptors rock up and just kind of park there, and then unload the Paladins and Kaldor Drago that was inside the Land Raider. And I'm pretty sure Drago thought that the Nids had some warp dust.
God.
Gents, I've got to clear out. It's a school night for me.
Fair enough.
Yes, I've got to teach
Look,
tomorrow.
We'll wrap it up there. Make sure that you subscribe to everyone watching, and we're going to try and make this a semi-regular thing. We'll see what happens. I've made this promise in the past, so no promises. We'll see what happens. Subscribe, ding the bell, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye forever.